What's up, everybody? So today's fly of the day is a really cool little nymph that we call the Ironman nymph. And this fly came about a few years back when we were trying to improve some of our favorite nymphs. I love the copper john, I love the anatome, and I love the lightning bug. So I took those three, and there were little things that I just didn't care about on each of those flies. Number one, the anatome, which is one of my favorites, they didn't make that in any bright attractor kind of versions. It was all these dark olives and browns. The copper john, I love the red version of the copper john, but I didn't care for the goose biot tail. I didn't care for the way the thorax was done as much. I caught a lot of fish on it, but I think the fish also started getting a little wise to it, and I wanted something with a little bit more attractive nature to it, a little bit more brightness. So we came up with this, kind of thinking along the lines of the lightning bug, and this is a little red version because I've just caught a ton of fish on little red flies. So this is the Ironman nymph, and it starts off with a tungsten red bead, and then we put about 10 turns of lead wire, and then we add a golden pheasant tail that is dyed red for the tail. I just like the durability of it, and I think it adds to the overall pop that this fly has. I'm going to tie in one strand of red holographic flashabou, and I tie most things in up at the front of the fly. I think it helps to keep the fly from having lumps and bumps. It creates a more smooth underbody. And then I'm going to tie in one piece of hot yellow brassy size UTC wire. And I like the hot yellow. I think it has more pop than just standard gold wire does. Once I have the wire tied in, I'm going to wrap the holographic flashabou. And remember, I doubled it up over the thread. So if it splits apart and one piece covers up the other piece, that's kind of what I'm looking for. It just leaves no gaps in anything. So I tie that up to where the thorax is going to be, tie it off, and then I'm going to wrap the wire. And tie that off. I like breaking wire versus cutting it, and just find it easier to make it nice and clean. And then we're going to do something kind of interesting. We are going to take a little bit of UV glue and coat the body of this fly with a little UV. I use Loon. Oh, that's a little too much. I'm just going to get all of that in there. It just kind of locks in all of that holographic material, keeps it from ever wanting to fray. Okay, once that is dry, we're going to continue on by tying in a small piece of holographic gold tinsel right on top. And then we're going to put a thin strip of thin skin, black, right underneath the holographic tinsel. We're going to do a little epoxy, UV epoxy wing case at the end of this, and that thin skin helps to keep the epoxy from running into everything. And then we're going to take 2 strands of crystal flash. And for this fly, I like to use bonefish tan crystal flash. I'm going to loop those onto the thread, bring it up. This is going to be our legs. Trim it. I've got them super long right now. These are all going to get trimmed down. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Loop it on the thread, pull it up, and lock it in. Okay. Now we're going to take, I have this really cool scarlet colored dubbing that I just love. I think it's some sort of scintilla. I don't even know if they make it anymore, but I got a ton of it and I use it for a lot of flies. So I'm going to tie, it's kind of an antron. It's like a trilobal looking dubbing. I'm going to tie it in. What I like about it is it's kind of a mix. It's got some black, it's got some red, and it's got some purplish to it. I think they call it fiery claret was the original color. I'm just going to do one wrap behind the backs of these legs, just to get them to stick out a little bit. I'll hit it with just a little bit more dubbing. I don't want a lot. Okay, now I'm going to bring the wing case up, thin skin, tie that off. Then I'm going to bring the 2 strands of gold Flashabou up, tie those off. I'm going to trim Flashabou. I'm going to trim thin skin. And now we're going to take just one little more bunch, one bunch more of this dubbing, fiery claret. I'm going to bring it up towards the head. I'm going to take 2 pieces of crystal flash and bring them back and kind of split those so it almost looks like antenna coming up front, but you're just spreading these legs out. Now if I'm tying this for myself, I leave all that crystal flash in there, so I actually have 8 legs. If I'm tying it for a shop or for a customer, I will trim the back of those last 2 legs, just because real insects have 6 legs. I kind of like the extra insurance of having some extra legs there, but to make it look more real, I will do this one with just 6 legs. So I'm coming in, trimming all those legs short, and then I'll come in on these back ones and just get rid of one of the extra legs that's in the back, if I can see it. Trim that down, bring this up. So there it is, the Ironman. Great little nymph pattern. And those crystal flash legs, you'd be surprised, are super durable. So the last part of this is to come in with your epoxy and just hit that wing case one more time, or one time. I don't know if you can see it with that UV light, but whatever this material is and this dubbing, it just pops. UV loves it. And there you have it.